Welcome to the Draft Professor, everybody. I am joined today by Randall Slifer and Owen, and we're going to be diving into some Buffalo Bills edge prospects here in a few minutes. But, guys, it's been about 7 days since I've seen each of you. Owen, how are you doing?
Wow, just forgetting about how we do these shows on Wednesdays too, Jim. Now, either you
6
forgot or you
days.
can't count. But I'm good. I'm good. I've spent a bit breaking down kind of the Bills scheme. I'm kind of excited. Um, I forgot that Jim Leonard was the DC for all those Wisconsin teams, where I absolutely
Yeah.
loved a lot of the prospects. But like, I was massively into Nick Herbig. Like, he was one of my guys. They
Same.
constantly have like an edge rusher, like Leo Chenal too. Constantly had players come out that I was in love with, that I was usually higher on the consensus. Another name, Matt Henningsen. He was a Bronco for a bit. Loved him out of those Wisconsin defenses. So I'm really excited to see now this defense at the NFL level, especially for the team I actively root for, and hopefully we'll be landing a lot more of those types of players, because that was always a fun watch through, especially like in the earlier days of watching prospects.
Yeah, it really was. And to be honest, I think it sounds like the Chiefs are very wishy-washy on bringing Leo Chenal back. So if that is the case and he's not going to stay in KC, I think it needs to happen that he comes back into Buffalo with Jim Leonard to kind of mesh his defensive scheme together and kind of get those players. I do suspect we maybe pick up John Franklin Myers or PJ Locke or somebody along those lines that's going to help transition his defensive scheme to the guys that we have in Buffalo. So I'm excited to see who we bring in free agency.
Chenal would be a middle linebacker, right?
He can play Sam. He's very versatile. I'd put him at Sam in Buffalo, to be honest.
He's kind of a Michael Hoyt-esque role type player, where he was at Wisconsin. He'd come off the edge a bit. He'd also play a stack backer. They had him, Jack Sanborn, who's on the Bears right now, I believe. Yep. They had a couple they had three linebackers, and they'd have that kind of flow state between it, whether they're coming off the edge or more of a stack type player. So he's definitely got that for going from. He's been used more as a stack player though for the Chiefs. So I'd be curious to see how he develops once he gets to the actual scheme he was in college.
So. And obviously we're covering edges today, but like Joe Marino on Bill's squad was saying that like Dorian Williams and Joe Andreessen in a 3-4 are almost perfect to be on the inside. It's the edge players in the 3-4 where you're saying Chenal would be one of those outside edge players, correct?
Yeah, it's technically an odd front because you have those three down linemen, your 5 tech, 4 eye, and nose. Right. But in reality, there's always going to be one of those outside backers rolling down and making it into more of an even front as like basically a wider alignment edge rusher type player. And then that other outside linebacker, instead of flipping to the strength, they'll just have them either come down or go back. So they have to be both proficient at playing down close to the line of scrimmage and playing from the stack in space. So that's where a guy like Chenal, Michael Hoyt fits really well into that position, because when you are in the point where like maybe you're on the strong side, so you have to roll down and be more of that line of scrimmage presence, you have the strength and the build to come do that as more of a down lineman type player. But if you're on the backside of it and you need to either drop into coverage or scrape from the backside, you're coming from 3 to 5 yards of depth like a typical linebacker. So you have to be able to move, but also rush up field, which I have a couple guys in this draft class, like even some of the lower end guys, I think. The whole process, I'm watching these guys, and a lot of my notes are they specifically in a 3-4 system. They have a ton of movement, but maybe they're not as proficient at being a consistent down line of scrimmage player. Like, that's the type of guy you're looking for. You can be more scheme specific with your picks, and you'll be able to get some good talent late in the later rounds because of that.
For sure.
Okay, so like one of the things, like as we were prepping for the podcast, I was texting you guys. So with a 3-4, there's a nose tackle, there's a defensive end, and there's an edge. And we're specifically, this podcast is about the edge players. So, like, Owen, could you discuss briefly, like, 4-eye, 5, edge, and, like, is this podcast only going to be on those players at the edge, and we're not really going to cover the 4-eye or the 5s? Or could you just explain maybe how you define it and like when you build your board and grade the players?
Yeah, so like I was kind of just mentioning earlier with when covering the edges, it's a lot more linebacker, edge, hybrid type players, you're going to be, when you go into those types of players, your typical, when especially in a scouting sense, if you're watching a guy and you're like, okay, he could be a down lineman, like an even front scheme. Those guys can oftentimes bump inside and be 5 techs or outside edge guys in an odd scheme as well. Whereas the guys are more skill specific to edges in an odd front. Are a bit more specific. So like your edges out there are going to have to be a bit smaller. You're not really considering them as these edge setting type players as much. The 5 techs, you're going to be head up on the offensive tackle. You need to have good length, strong hands, because you're not getting any kind of advantage to be able to work half a man. In the even front scheme, you'd be on a shoulder, and even with the 4 eyes, you're on a shoulder of a guy one side or the other. So you have a leverage advantage for a gap there. 5 tech, you are head up, need to get off the ball, get hands on, play through a guy's chest, and then be able to 2 gap it through that way. So that's the difference. The 4 eye is on the inside shoulder of that tackle. You can see players like T.J. Sanders or Ed Oliver in this defense being that more, because they're going to be trying to shoot that gap, the B gap there between the guard and tackle a bit more often, or working that inside shoulder. Whereas like you have a 5 tech, which like a Greg Rousseau, who was like, no, again, a guy who you could have been, or was an even front edge, but has the length and the hand strength to then play head up on a tackle and be more of a 5 tech type player. And then you have like the Javon Solomons on the Bills right now, who were struggling as an odd or as an even front defensive end, because he was asked to constantly be on the outside shoulder of an offensive tackle, get your hands on every single play. Whereas in this scheme, he's more so fitting towards the edges, where you're wider alignment, relying a lot more on your lateral movement and not having to be as physical and hands-on and playing into your weaknesses as much for a player like him.
Okay. And
Owen, sorry, I got a question for you. As you discussed that, we talked about Greg Rousseau there. Do you supplant Greg Rousseau in as that 5 tech, or do you move him around?
I think he works great. He'd be the 5 tech. He was already a phenomenal run defender with using his hands and his arms.
Yeah,
so
and in college, he worked inside and things along those lines, yeah.
I think also, especially going back to like his draft evaluation when he was coming out in 2020 or 2021, he was always like a great slasher and like was able to do those gap shooting stuff. So I think if you even had him as the 4 eye, I think he's going to get way more run on the field. Whereas we're going from a McDermott system where it's a heavy rotation, Rousseau would be on and off the field a ton. I think because he fits even the edge, the 5 tech, and the 4 eye well across this front, he's going to be out there for almost all the defensive snaps in my prediction.
I agree. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, so Randall, you kind of fed into like where my brain was going. So for example, TJ Sanders was mentioned as a 4 eye, and this is an edge episode. And I don't think we ever were going to talk about TJ Sanders in an edge show. Right.
Unless you're looking at the Bills from his past season.
Right. Well, when we were doing this podcast a year ago, TJ Sanders doesn't make that edge show. And that's kind of where I was going, right? Because there's a couple players in this draft class where I would say like LT Overton. He could be that 4 eye or the 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And because I mean, some people were even saying push him in and let him be a 3 tech.
Yeah, I think he fits a lot better as the 5 tech than any of the other spots.
He definitely does, yeah.
4 eye, you're still pushing it a bit more, but yeah, I think 5 tech he fits cleanly into.
So kind of my question to kind of tee it up, then I'll let you guys talk about whichever players you want, is that does the LT Overton fit your definition of an edge for this podcast, or are we strictly talking about more of the outside linebacker types?
I was going with
cover. Or go ahead, Brandon.
I thought we were going to go more towards the outside linebacker edge role, and then we would have a different one to discuss nose tackles, and then 4 and 5s. Does that make sense, Owen?
Yeah, I feel like we're not going to. I don't think we're going to be able to do this episode without touching on 5 tech guys.
For sure. Yeah.
Some of these edges, we're going to have disagreements on whether or not they're going to be, not whether or not they're going to be a fit for the Bills defense. It's just where on this Bills defensive line they do fit. Like we're going to have a debate over Romello Height, who is someone I'm going to bring up for the edges. But if we're going to talk about like a Mikael Kamara or a Max Llewellyn, like someone like one of those types of players, a Gabe Akis, if any of those guys came up, you could probably argue one spot or the other, and I might like them better as a 5 tech, where you like more as in space and vice versa. So I do think 5 tech's going to get touched on here, but I don't think it should be the main focal point of the show.
You see, and you've already answered my question. So I'm looking. So is there Is there any hope that Buffalo would draft David Bailey?
No.
If he's there.
Yeah. He fit perfect in that. Obviously, Texas Tech runs that 3-4, and he's the outside linebacker who has the best pass rush win rate in this class. But he's not going to be there, and I wouldn't want to use any capital to move up. Personally, I wouldn't want any capital for Buffalo to move up anywhere in the top 15. I think there's a discussion to be had in 16 to 20, 20 to 25, but too rich for my blood, anything in the top 15. I think David Bailey goes top 15.
So I guess my question, I should have teed it up differently. Would Buffalo draft a player with David Bailey's character?
Yeah. Like his off-field stuff, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah. I think Bean now cursing consistently for the past week. I think some of that McDermott philosophy might have gone out the window on that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, David Bailey had a couple, like it was a quick fight, and then he did have the stomping on the helmet the year before. But I don't know. I think once you get into locker room, those kind of off-field concerns, once you get into an NFL locker room with grown men that need to feed families, I think your attitude switches a little bit and adjusts in that department.
Oh, and how about you as far as the character goes? You think that David Bailey could be a Buffalo Bill? Like,
I think
person?
I think he's. I think Randall hit that really good, where it's going to be, regardless. I think you're going to have a different view on it, especially when you get to the point where now it's your profession, you're doing it for money, and if you mess up again, it's done. You're done for. I also do think that at a point where the talent is to the level where it's at with David Bailey, sometimes it gets ignored. Like I have him graded very similarly to where I had the edge from Marshall last year.
Mike Green.
Mike Green. I have him and Mike
Right.
Green. Actually, I had Mike Green a slightly higherly graded just because he was more of a prototypical kind of versatile type player.
Yeah.
And he went high second. So if David Bailey's there in 26, there's no way they don't take him because the talent level is going to get him drafted in the first round regardless because he is low, to the point that he is just a person who's going to generate 10 plus sacks out the gate is going to be what's going to push him to being drafted. Mike Green was more so, it was a recurring thing, and people kind of knew he'd be a bit more slowly coming along, less polished David Bailey is as a pass rusher. So I think regardless, the talent's going to get a guy drafted.
And so I have this thing in my head, I guess, that it's like I was listening to what people were saying about David Bailey, let's say in October, November, right? Like we're still doing game previews and where he was versus where he's being graded now. And I'm like, I feel like the grade, everybody's overlooking the character that I don't know, like is draft Twitter and draft media overvaluing the film and undervaluing the character? But I don't want to make this a David Bailey podcast, but I mean, I'm looking at Owen's spreadsheet, so
yeah. In the broad scheme of character issues you can have as a football player, I think David Bailey's
not the worst.
Kind of on the lesser end. Like we just brought up Mike Green. Mike Green had 2 sexual assault cases previously. That's the kind of stuff that gets you falling out of the first round. David Bailey needing to mature and be more mature on the field and not as aggressive and keeping his temper in check, I think is going to be a lot better received than the off the field stuff that you can't control and gets like police involved.
Agreed. You look like, Xavier Harris is a highly talented guy, but that's somebody where you really, really take into account his off-field issues this year and stuff and things like that. Xavier Harris has talent potentially for top 100, maybe early day 3, but he's going to fall down to the 6th round, 7th round, probably because of his issues.
Okay. So Randall, I'll pivot this to you. What players do you have graded at edge that you'd be comfortable with at pick 26?
At pick 26, David Bailey. David Bailey would be one, and I would probably have to say Keldrick Falk, but I do believe that Keldrick Falk is another one that won't get to us. Edge is a little rough sitting at 26. There's a couple that I would potentially be welcoming to trade back. Cassius Howell is the 26th pick for me. I really do like Cassius Howell. I'm nervous about his whole entire frame, but he's got a ghost move, an NFL ghost move, and he moves very well, has production to show it. Really do like Cassius Howell. He's probably the third one out of there. I would definitely, in a trade back situation, like a small trade back, Mike Kamara and R. Mason Thomas are people that I would take for sure as well. Other than that, TJ Parker could go in that boat as well, but he's somebody with his size and frame is what me and Owen are talking about, where he could work on the edge as an outside linebacker, but he could also line up as that 5T. So that's somewhere that could go intertwined where you're going to put him there. But those are probably my guys around that 26 area.
Hey, Owen, on your spreadsheet, what does your red color code mean?
Rounds 4 to 5.
Okay, so let's have a Mikel Kamara conversation. Because Randall would be taking him in the top 40. And, Owen, that's not your grade, at least as I'm looking at your spreadsheet.
Yeah. So I have him with a high round because I think 73 in the highest grade you can get to be still around 4 or 5, 73.5. So he's just on the knock on the door of like a true third round film grade. Whereas I think with the multiplier, he gets up to like mid third round grade. So I'm not specifically super high on him. He's a player for me that, especially looking at last year's film and then also this year's, he turned it up a bit towards the playoffs. So I do think that is something to be looked at. But he's a player that has some physical limitations when it comes to combining length with a lot of the frame stuff. I feel like he's a very good player when it comes to the level of like motor he plays with, aggressiveness. He does have some good pass rush moves. I was really worried about him as like a 4-3 edge because like he doesn't really keep up with the run defense when it comes to stacking and shedding. So I don't think he's really an option for them as like a 5-tech. If you're going to exclusively draft Mikel Kamara, it's going to be as that 3-4 edge. And I do like him. It's just more so, does he have the level of athleticism to really stick out there? For me, like he's like a high-end edge 3. Like you could bring him in, he becomes a player that complements and is off the bench spark plug type guy. Not somebody I think if you were going to run an operation where you need him to be out there for 90+% of the snaps in defense, I'm in love with it. He'd be an upgrade to like AJ Epinesa. I do think, but having a guy that's opposite Rousseau as like your consistent starter there on edge, or if you have to go and get two guys to be more of that in-space edge type player while I wait for Hoyt to recover. I do think that he's not my favorite fit for that, but I do think he could come in and operate, especially early on until Hoyt comes in. And then once Hoyt comes in, he's pushed down to like a more comfortable third edge guy on my rotation that I'm more happy with.
So, Randall, what makes you higher on Kamara relative to Owen's assessment?
Yeah, he's my edge 6. I think he has a really good pass rush bag, and he also comes in with a pass rush plan. I think he's a very high IQ pass rush player. I think he's got a really good bull rush. He's got good counters, high IQ counters. He's got good play strength. I think he sets the edge well, and he is pretty good at defending the run. The dip in production, I'm really going by 2024's production, which I really loved it at that point. But he still ended up playing well in the playoffs. I think he's got a good spin move. I think when he's running stunts and twists, he is a selfless guy in that department. He really knows how to open up his other defensive linemen. And I think that's really beneficial, especially in the 3-4, to help in those stunts and open up other players. So I think overall, being the Indiana, like it's hard to consistently talk about Indiana being like they're just high IQ, selfless players, but that's what he kind of is, sort of thing. And I think he contributes well to that defensive line. So that's why he's my edge 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when you're watching Indiana, like even watching like Aiden Fisher film, like the way that they, especially on those twists and stunts, are so selflessly able to absorb and clear up lanes for other guys. They ran that scheme where they were able to get consistent pressure from all different levels, not just from guys that are beating dudes one-on-one blocks. They have the scheming up and the operations they all work under are really well. So I do like that. And that I just think for me, Kamara is a player that, especially in run defense, he has to work extremely hard to do that. It's not like he's going to be a natural run defender because he has a ton of talent for that with the lack of length. I don't think he's elite play strength or anything like that. So he's going to have to be a hard worker to be able to consistently be a good edge rusher or an edge defender. And then as a pass rusher, I do agree. I like his bag and I like the rush plan he comes in with. It's just, again, the lack of high-end physical traits make me like, okay, he's not going to be a consistent. He could be like a 6 to maybe max out of 10 sacks and like a career year type player. I do think that is his upside. But I do think he has a high floor comparatively so.
I think that's fair.
And if memory serves me correctly, when we did the Indiana show, like in the summer, Kamara was a guy that you did have your eye on. Like
Yeah,
you were
he was
saying,
someone
that
I was
was
really
a player
looking
you
up
wanted
to.
to watch. Yeah.
He was my edge 7 in the summer, so he moved up one notch for me. I was a big fan of him in the summer. I mean, 2024, he had great production. So I mean, he was hot in the summer for me.
Okay. So Randall, my memory is fading as to all the edges that you listed that you would take at pick 26 was a small trade down, but one player I did remember was R. Mason Thomas. And in looking at Owen's grades, I think that's a player that you both agree on. So you want to talk about R. Mason Thomas for a little bit?
Yeah, big fan of R. Mason Thomas, and would not be surprised if Buffalo gets interested with hiring Valet and as Buffalo coming from Oklahoma. So there would be a connection. But plays in the 3-4. He's one of the most explosive outside edges, I think, in this class. He comes in with a cannon. What I really loved about R. Mason Thomas, moving him into that fringe first rounder, is the way he developed from 2024 to 2025. In 2024, he was really just nothing but explosion. It always reminded me of him and like Torian York. All they did was use their athleticism and hopefully make the play happen. In 2025, R. Mason Thomas really now comes in with solid pass rush plan and a pass rush bag, and he's just a menace when it comes to that outside edge. I mean, he cleaned out the 2024 Auburn game with 2 sacks, and he closed out the 2025 Auburn game with 2 sacks. He's a closer. He can get the job done, and I just really like what he's about. So the ability to be that impactful in college, I think, translates to the NFL, and the way he does it will work as well.
So, Owen, would you take R. Mason Thomas in round 1 for Buffalo?
That's okay. That I had him. I had him with the multiplier. Once I put the multiplier in after I graded him in the summer, he had a late first round grade for me. Just because he is so explosive and so good at winning as a pass rusher, both with a ton of moves to counter back inside, but can win on the outside with speed. I do think that what dropped him eventually for me was I felt that maybe he could be more scheme versatile moving into it. But then as the season went on, I was like, okay, he's more clearly like a 3-4 outside backer, kind of fit perfectly what the Bills would want for this role. So for me, he's graded lower as a player that is like, okay, he's not going to be versatile. He's not going to be for everybody. So neutral grading him, he's like a high second round option for me. So for a team like the Bills that runs that scheme, if they fall in love with him character-wise or think that they can have other players to help kind of bring him along in the run defense, because he's another player that the reason why he fits in the 3-4 outside linebacker is he's just not that strong at the point of attack. Can, beat up on some tight ends and stuff, but don't ask him to set a hard edge. Don't ask him to be that 5-tech player. He's exclusive to your outside edge. This scheme, I could see it. Wouldn't be my favorite pick because there's other guys in that same mold I do like a little bit better. Like I have Cassius Howell, David Bailey, obviously, and then like Romello Height I have in the same kind of bucket as him. But if he went at 26 or even like a small trade down to like the back half of the first or back into the first, maybe 32, 31, or even like beginning of the second, I would be happy with all those spots.
Okay. And then, Owen, you mentioned like Romello Height. I do not know if that was one of the players Randall stated because my brain just wasn't processing everything.
Yeah, I went quick. It is not. I have a 3rd round grade on Romello Height. I'm a little nervous about his frame in general. I'm a little nervous that he benefited in his production off a little bit of having David Bailey on the other side. I do like Romello Height overall. I think he would fit very, very well in Buffalo's system in that outside linebacker role. He does hit, like he's a stand-up rusher. He does play above his weight, but his weight is still his weight at that point. He gets to the ball. He has really good strip sacks. He has a good peanut punch. He has a good pass rush bag. I'm just a little nervous about his frame, and I think he's more of a round 3 for me in a kind of development and potential risk in taking him that early in round 1 or early round 2.
Romello Height's like 220, 230, right?
I had 232 down, but I'm not sure.
I have him as 6. Well, so he was listed this on Texas Tech's website, which take this with a grain of salt. 6'3", 240 is, but I don't think he's 240.
No, yeah, I think he's more closer to 230.
And remind me of what R. Mason Thomas was.
he was listed as 6'2", 250 on Oklahoma's site. So
what's the ideal frame for like a 3-4 outside linebacker that we're calling an edge?
That's kind of that's kind of your ballpark.
Yeah.
Okay, so
if height is actually 220 to 230, then he's on the leaner side. He looks lean. So you'd want him like north of 240, maybe like hair under it at the lightest, like 238, 239. But you'd want him between 240, 250, even maybe pushing like 255 there.
Yeah.
Okay, so Owen, based upon again looking at your sheet, you would like Romello Height at pick 26 is not out of the realm for the way that you have him graded. That's not where Randall has him graded, but that's where you have him graded, right?
Well, yeah. So he's equal graded to Mason R. Thomas or R. Mason Thomas for me, where they're exact same grade. I think R. Mason Thomas is better with frame, like Randall was saying, and that kind of translates a bit more to the run defense. I think Height is a bit more polished and further along as a pass rusher to what I think he could come in. And if he is your more DPR type player, initially he's going to have a greater production than maybe an R. Mason Thomas is. So I do think they're equal to me when it comes to that. So that's why when you were asking if R. Mason Thomas in the first, I'm like, it's a little rich for me at 26. I'd like him better at the top of the second, but that's the same thing for me with Romello Height. If either of those guys went at 26, I would not be ecstatic because there was probably other players at other positions. I probably would have let rather this go for BPA, but I could always talk myself into both those players. If you remember Romello Height, when me and Nuke covered him, he was the one I was listening to some Michael Jackson while I was watching his tape.
Oh, I remember that tweet. Yeah,
I was listening to Smooth Criminal, and he hit the woo right as he hit his spin move and absolutely embarrassed Spencer Fano, and I was like, oh, this guy's awesome.
Okay, so this is actually a great question. So where's the greatest disagreement? The whole purpose of the podcast is to figure out where the disagreement is. Right? So I think at this point, where we are, Owen has a board, and I have it on my other monitor. I can see that Owen's looking at it too because I see it's Owen's board, but I can also see Owen's name on the Google Sheet. And then I see Randall's name on the Google Sheet too. So we communicated some of this ahead of the podcast, right? As to like which edges somebody liked, but really kind of the premise here, Two Champions, is to kind of figure out who we like and who we disagree on, and then start sorting through all of that. And that's the joy, because here at Draft Professor, there's no guarantee that we're all going to agree. So I think the first disagreement, I think, is Romello Height.
Yeah. I got the next disagreement.
Go for it, Randall.
Because they're back to back for me in early thirds is Joshua Josephs right next to Romello Height for me. And it looks like you are a little bit down on him. Now I know. Yeah, I know. Now I know that I very much see like his production. I personally, I know a lot of people like tape is always the most important without a doubt, but I do look at production. I do think production does make a matter. And Joshua Joseph's production consistently in 3 to 5 sacks in the last 3 years is not the greatest, with only 30 pressures and things along those lines. But I really like Joshua Joseph's length on the outside for his size at 6'2", 2. I think it might be high 230s, so he is lighter framed like Romello Height. But I think he's a stellar run defender for his size, which is wild to see, and it's really nice to see. I think he sets the edge well. His lateral movement and speed is above average. His stunts are good. He goes back into coverage. He had a PBU. He can hit. He can hit hard on free releases. He hits above his weight. He can get stuffed at tackles because of his frame. He needs to be at the right spot. He needs to gain a higher IQ in his pass rush to overcome his frame, other than his good length at it. But I like his explosion. I like his get off on his first step. I think he is a solid look at, if we were to look at the end of round 2 or round 3 edge, if we don't go round 1.
Yeah. This has been my grade on Joshua Joseph since, like, I know people were high on him like early on in the process, and I watched him pretty early on, and he was like the first guy that I did not get. I remember there was a tweet, I think one of the more popular draft coverage people at one of the major companies had him and like TJ Parker next to each other in the third round grades midway through the season. And that was when I was like, okay, I thought I was insane. Because when I watched him, it was a lot of the similarities to like for me with Romello Height, where they both move really well.
Right.
It's their lateral ability, like specifically with Joseph, his ability to move in space and like collapse from the backside and chase plays and reduce those angles to attack the run, and just win in space specifically was great. And especially for a player of his build, he's going to need to do that because he's going to have to play in a scheme like the Bills are going to have now. The difference for me between him and Romello Height, and I do think it's kind of night and day with that, is that his pass rush ability isn't to the level I think Heights is at, where a player of that stature needs to be able to bend a bit more, have more speed off the edge, and win with those natural skill sets that should come with a guy that size. And I think Height has that in spades. Like I said, he has the elite inside spin move. He has the ability to threaten the outside edge with the bend and speed that's in that bordering on or in that elite category as well, to kind of balance him out as a pass rusher to win outside and inside. Whereas Joseph's, he tries to win on the outside with his bend and long arming. I do think when he can put it all together, he has some really good rushes. But I think it's kind of reflected in his production where he just is not able to bring it back and go snap to snap to snap, building a rush plan, going for one move at the beginning of the game to set up another move later in the game. He doesn't really have that wide or expansive of a bag. And there's some stiffness to his game I just don't love for a guy of his size. So I don't love his ability outside of that. But for like a team for the Bills with the scheme they run, if they wanted to grab him round 4, round 5, I do think that would be a spot where I'd start considering him, especially as like a double dip candidate, especially with Hoyt coming off of injury and just needing more bodies that fit that skill set they're looking for in this new defense, because they really don't have anybody on the roster outside of Hoyt that like cleanly fits that position right now.
So I have a question on two players. Zion Young of Missouri, Gabe Akis of Illinois. So, Owen, you have both of them in tier 3. And tier 3 is defined as plus talent, but I have questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the first question is, Randall, how high do you have Akis and Zion Young graded?
Let's see. I've got Gabe Akis. It is Akis, not Yakis. I've always said Yakis.
Yeah, the J is
but
silent.
Gabe Akis is my edge 9 overall, and Zion Young is my edge 7 overall. They're similar. Gabe Akis had a very good Senior Bowl, so that really kind of solidified where I kept him. And in between Zion Young and Gabe Akis is TJ Parker, by the way. And then in front of Zion Young is Akeem Messidor. But I like both of them. I'm a big fan of both of them. Gabe Akis, he's got really good strength to his game, low center of gravity at that 6'3", 279 build, and solid length with 33-inch arms. Great speed to power and bull rush, engages with tackles well and can disengage quick with his strength. Stunts and laterals look good. Only thing that I have a knock on him for is he's hot and cold in defending the run. When he gets hot in defending the run, he consistently do it in that game. But there's just games where he's very much off on it and he can't recover. So that's kind of my knock on him. But I'm a fan of Gabe Akis in general, and yeah, I would take him in the mid-second.
Okay.
Mid-second.
And that Zion Young is in that same range, right?
Yeah, Zion Young's a little earlier. Obviously, there's always that run, those second-round runs. I like him at 6'5", 265. We saw him at the Senior Bowl in a 4-point stance, looking like a beast with explosion off that line. His first step is really good, super explosive. Closing speed is great. He's got pass rush moves. He's got really good lights out sacks against Alabama, bounced big time against big time opponents. Really what I'd like to see him work on a little bit is just working on counters. After the first move, if he gets stunned by a tackle, he has a tough time recovering and trying to get past them. Tackles can kind of just hold him. Needs to work on some hand fighting and a counter to get past if he does not win on his first move. But big fan of Zion Young.
Okay. So Zion Young also, if memory serves me correctly, there is an off field. There's some.
He had the fight at Michigan State where the Michigan
fight
player,
in the tunnel?
The fight in the tunnel. He was one of the person that was charged, I believe, and but then nothing came of it. Don't jump one kid when he got 7, and I believe he recently had a DUI. But
okay,
those two I'm not taking with I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in it.
Okay. So, Owen, I'm about to tee you up for Akis and Young. So, we've had several people on this channel pound the table for Zion Young, and I'm going to give you some examples. Zion Young at 25 to the Bears. I don't remember who did that, but somebody did that.
There's a
Zion
draft professor
Young,
with an edge too, right? Who's Drew?
well, yeah,
Drew
and
Collins
that's Drew.
is edge
So,
two.
but Drew's Saints. He's not Bears.
Gotcha.
So Peter Quinn will take Zion Young at 32 for the Seahawks. If Howell's off the board, Zion Young is the next edge there. And then all of the Titans podcasters will take Zion Young to the Titans at the top of round 2. And like Drew says, there's no way Zion Young should get by the Saints in round 2. So knowing that, Owen, like, where is your grade on Zion Young? And like, you said you plus player, but you have questions. Like, if Zion Young is the edge the Bills take, where are you on that as far as like which round that should be in? And go for it.
So I remember when I was starting to hear the buzz about Zion Young, because I heard Drew had him as edge too. And I think that was when we did our end of session roundup big board. Zion Young is like edge 14 for me right now. He's a player that I need to come back to again, because I watched him for that episode. And he kind of is in the mold of players that I haven't liked in the past, that a lot of people fell in love with. That I just never really saw it, and then goes kind of a lot higher than I thought so. I normally am more on point with those kind of guys, but I always kind of have pause, especially with how much groundswell has been for him. For me, he's a guy that I like. He has a 3rd round grade for me. Like, I would be happy with him, end of the 2nd, early 3rd round pick for the Bills. Where I have questions is that, he's big, strong, powerful. He has some explosivity despite having some size. He can win that way as a pass rusher. And he has good examples of winning as a pass rusher at the SEC level consistently, as Randall laid out. For me, and especially when looking at it through the Bills, which is why I say I have questions, is when he was put into a position of having to defend the run or attack a passer, or be put in any kind of situation where he has an amount of space that he has to cover, where he's going to be in a lot more if he's going to be an edge of the Bills. That's where he struggled. So, like, in my write-up, I have him written down as a powerful but not elite athlete, which I think a lot of people that are banking on his upside are banking on the fact that he's going to be like a really strong athlete and test really well. Just for me, in all those plays where I saw him in large amounts of space and being like, they challenged him, like, hey, we don't think you can cover this amount of ground or have this great change of direction and make these high-level athletic plays, he did struggle. So for me, there was a lot of plays like that where I'm like, okay, he's a bit lower ceilinged. I do think he's a bit more skill specific. I feel like he's more of an even front end, more of a clean fit there, because he's more powerful, can set a hard edge, and I like him better when he has hands on offensive linemen. So I see the talent, I see the production. It's just more so the style player and how high that athletic ceiling really is for me with Zion Young, which is why I'm kind of on the lower end with him specifically.
And Randall, it feels like you're kind of aligned with Owen then on how you see Young, right?
Well, yeah, for sure. Because first, I had Zion Young way back in summer scouting. I was not a big fan of him in summer scouting. I thought he played way too soft in 2024. And just as Owen was talking about, one thing that drove me crazy is in 2024, I have this down in my notes. He had a rep against Auburn where he came out from outside the tackle. And the tackle put such a wide setback where he was just giving him the inside. Like, take the inside if you want it. And he still never took the inside because it didn't look like he wanted to cut athletically, just as Owen was talking about. And he just tried to still go around the bend of the tackle on the outside. And the tackle just, pushed him outside the pocket. It was so clear obvious that the tackle knew Zion Young was not going to take that inside cut as an athletic standpoint. And he never did. And that's what kind of drove me crazy in 2024. But I did see good improvement of that in 2025 based on 2024. So I saw the ascension there, and then tack that on with how he's a good pass rusher is why I now am. Owen is right. Edge 7 for me is his ceiling. He's not going to get any higher for me, and I am kind of putting him with he will improve in the NFL and he will do better.
Okay. And then the other interesting fact I'd like to point out is Gabe Ackus is the same Taekwondo coach as Lawrence Taylor.
Dude,
So-
I love me some my Taekwondo guys. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a 3rd-degree black belt in Taekwondo.
I think
Dang.
I know that.
I
Okay.
did it for 12 years or something like that.
So
It's great. It's a great way to use your hands. A great way to learn how to use your hands and your footwork specifically to defend yourself and attack others when that kind of movement.
So shout out to Tristan Thomas, who's a reporter at a news affiliate in Champaign, Illinois. He's podcasted with Draft Professor twice when we covered Illinois. So he was in the locker room. He was the one that fed me that nugget of information. So
Well, Akis also. So another thing is Jim Leonard was, after he got done with his time in Wisconsin, he spent 2023 in Illinois as a graduate assistant with Akis. So he has a connection to Akis for that one season before he went to
He
Broncos.
got Pat Bryant drafted in Denver.
Yeah, because he went to the Broncos right after going to Illinois.
Yep.
So he has a connection with Akis.
Okay, and then you wanted to talk about Falco.
Yeah, because that was one of the names we kind of dropped super early on, and I do think up until the firing of Sean McDermott and the change of the system of defense, I was pounding the table for Falk at 26 if he was going to be there. Now, whether or not he was going to be there, different question. What I was curious about, because it sounded like, Randall, you still have him as like a no-brainer if he's there at 26, take him kind of guy. Do you have him for the edge, or were you thinking more 5 tech? I just don't know. For me, he's right now in the edge grouping. He's in the same tier as the guys we were talking about, where it's like, or he's in tier 2. No, wrong. I don't even have him on the edge. So for me, I think this is kind of the question I have. For me, I don't know where he fits on this defense. Where you probably want him on the edge, but maybe he's got the length and stuff to play 5 tech. But for me, the biggest question about him was being able to play through guys in their chest and utilizing his hands and his length to really stack and shed and be a consistent run defender that way. He was a lot more similar to like Greg Rousseau coming out of college, where slasher, likes to work in space despite being a bigger body type guy, likes to shoot gaps. So is he more of a 4-eye type player? And do you draft him to rotate with that Oliver if he's going to be at that spot? Or if you hope that you can develop into being more of a 5 tech player, or can he drop weight? There's a whole lot of questions everywhere you put him on positional wise with this defense. And I'm like, not as big of a fan for him as the Bills as I was when we were still running the even front. He was going to be the opposite base end next to Greg Rousseau.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely would work better in the 4-3. I think he's just very, very talented, so it's kind of almost a BPA. But if I had to put him, I'd put him at 4-eye. I think he works better inside in his play strength and be able to shoot that gap, as you mentioned. So I would stick him if we were to draft him, I'd put him at that 4-eye and train him in that regard, because of the way he can shoot the gap. His hand fighting on the inside, I think, would be better than the outside. And just as you said, shooting the gap would work. So I'd put him at 4-eye personally. Where would you?
Well, so that's where I would probably like him the best at the 4-eye spot. But then for me, the fact that you have Ed Oliver, who probably fits the best there as well. I wouldn't really love Ed Oliver as a 5 tech, whereas I think. So it's like, if I'm drafting him, I'm like, okay, am I really going to have Ed Oliver come off the field for him to go on? So for me, if you're going to draft Falk, I don't know if you have any other spot other than like putting him at edge in more space, because he's a great athlete. He's 6'6", but can move. So like maybe he's a bit more comfortable in that open space than some other guys are. I just like him more as an inside rusher, and I think that he doesn't really fit cleanly to the 5 tech. And the same thing, like you have a bunch of guys that fit cleanly in those spots. Greg Rousseau is a 5 tech. Ed Oliver, TJ Sanders has 4 eyes. And I think Falk, the best spot for him, especially if you draft him at 26 to get on the field, would be as like that off-ball edge, outside linebacker type. I just don't love him in that spot. So that's why I'm saying, like, a fit for the Bills, I don't know how great of a fit that is, even though I love his play. And if we didn't already have a 4-eye on the roster and Ed Oliver, I would love it even more. But the fact that we do have that player, and I'm unsure how that would work with getting all those guys on the field at the same time, that's where I'm have more concern with that pick, even though I love the player.
Right. Yeah, it is pretty much, when I talk about him, is how much I love him as a player. I do think that in a McDermott scheme, it's way better. In this scheme, it's not. My question for you, because I know that we dropped TJ Sanders' name, how do you think TJ Sanders will do in this system?
That one I'm very curious about, because I did love him as like a 3 tech, and I don't think I think he's very much in the Ed Oliver mold, where once you saw him on the edge this year, where you're not going to want him to stack and shit on the end, so you don't really want him to be a 5 tech. He cannot be an outside edge. Either he's going to have to add like 20 pounds to be a nose tackle, or he's going to be the rotational guy for Ed Oliver at 4i. And then at that point, you're drafting Keldrick Falk. You're either bumping TJ Sanders off the roster entirely because then now he's not even in the first up for rotation in at 4i, or you have to try to get him to work as like a nose tackle. But you also have at this point like Dwayne Carter, and I don't love the idea of TJ Sanders being like your zero check nose at that spot.
Yeah, I don't really either, and I do get that. And realistically, it's just my love for the player. I do think he's not that great of a fit. I'm just nervous with Landon Jackson and TJ Sanders being kind of in that better for McDermott system and how they transition. And would that be a weak spot when our depth goal could take a strike with changing defensive schemes? Because, McDermott's scheme was we're going to hit you 3 times in 3 levels of depth. So then by the fourth quarter, your guards and tackles are so tired, but our third string 3 tech is still healthy and ready to go. Now, if TJ Sanders and Landon Jackson are not those type of players that are going to contribute as well as we expected, then that kind of takes a dip in the ideology of having so much depth.
For me, I think you have between. I love TJ Sanders coming last year. I'm not ready to give up on him specifically.
Me neither. He really improved late in the year.
Yeah, and I do think he does fit. He does fit that 4i work because he's a gap shooter. He has athleticism. He has size to be able to still play with some length there. I do like him as a 4i in the system. For me, the one I'm most concerned about of this past year fitting into the new system is Deion Walker. Because, I think TJ fits a bit cleaner to the 4i than Walker does because Walker's a bit more upright. And while he is a good gap shooter, I do think he doesn't – I don't know. It could be whoever's the better of the two of them would be the primary backup. I'm still going to give the edge to Sanders just because I'm going off of my preseason analysis for the draft. Whereas Walker, I wasn't that big of a fan of, even though Walker outperformed him this year. I do think Walker had the chance to play his more natural position than Sanders did. So that probably helps a bit for him. But that's where I'm thinking, even adding Falk, you have Oliver, and then between Sanders and Walker, neither none of those guys, I'm comfortable with him being at nose tackle. So now you're adding a fourth 4i type player into your rotation. Okay, that's where I'm kind of, damn, I love Falk, but I don't know if I can make it work.
Yeah. No, that's fair for sure. I don't know. I love Deion, and I'm a big fan of Deion, so this is so much bias talking. But I think you could put him kind of anywhere on the line. He can figure out. I mean, Kentucky 2024, Kentucky 2023, there was wide 9 that he was running. And really, I do think coming out of Kentucky, he was more of a 3-4 defensive end as it was. So I think his versatility and his way and his ability to adapt, he'll either work a 4i or a 5 tech and then be able to moonlight as a nose tackle, maybe be able to take that nose tackle role in obvious passing down situations so he can shoot that gap and things along those lines. So I think Deion Walker is going to fit this scheme well. I'm very excited to see what Jim Leonard's going to do with him.
And
I hope you're right.
I think you guys are pointing something out too, with that discussion, and that's the players Buffalo needs to add, across what I would say in the front 7. It's not the 4i or the 5. It's either a nose tackle or the players that are out wide. So there may be some players we need to add, but
for sure.
We probably have a surplus of the 4i and the 5 players. The depth chart is solid. That doesn't mean it can't be improved, but it's solid.
Well, I'm not the biggest fan. I do love Deion Walker. He had a great season. But with how he won, I'm not the biggest fan with from what he's shown in the NFL. I have him as a 5 tech or nose tackle, being he's the primary backup. We're going with him. We have no doubts about that. I do think if he can show, obviously the coaching staff's gonna be around him more often, so they'll be able to corroborate that more. So if they trust him, then that's fine. But I would add another 5 tech, a Tyreek Sapp on day 3, who was low ceiling, high floor 5 tech in college. We're okay, that's a good backup 5 tech player right there to spell Greg Rousseau. If you want either Walker to be more of a nose tackle, or if he just is phased out because maybe he doesn't fit I think he is. But for me, I think you're going to have to put at least 2 between free agency and the draft, either 2 or 3 investments into the outside edge role. Whether that's Chanel to go with Hoyt, because Hoyt's going to be out at the beginning of the season, and who is the player on your roster right now that fits into that outside edge role? Because you don't want to put Rousseau out there.
You
There's
just
a good
pivoted right
chance.
to my next question. So
Well, there's a
Randall,
good chance that Hoyt is active for week 1 because it's an Achilles. So there's an opportunity where I think he goes on 4-week IR, but some Twitter doctors say that he'd be ready week 1. But the issue is his whole entire year he won't be his 100% self, and that's an issue.
so Randall,
Yeah.
what positions do you have Trey Moore of Texas and Jay-Sean Barham of Michigan?
Jayshon Barham, I believe, is my outside linebacker with edge. I still need to finish his. Yeah, I still need to finish his, but I do believe he could be. Yeah, I got to finish my eval on him, but I believe I have Barham as an outside linebacker at 6'3", 243. And then who's the
Okay.
other one?
Trey Moore of Texas.
Trey Moore, I had as a outside linebacker edge at 6'3", 249. Yeah,
Oh,
used
okay.
all over the field. Would cover well in flats and middle zone coverages. Pass rush is decent. Uses speed and explosion. Has okay speed to power, but sets the edge well. Stays active consistently. Versatile, super versatile. Does a lot of things. Slightly above average, but can work on a lot. I believe I have Trey Moore as a late round 4 guy.
That's about so. I have Trey Moore and Barham graded similarly, where they're both high round 4s for me. But I need if the Bills leave this April in that draft without Jayshon Barham on their roster, I'm going to be intensely upset. He's a player.
I gotta finish my eval tomorrow.
I loved him coming into the season because we did Michigan. We covered them when he was still playing middle linebacker, and he was one of those players that I wanted just from being a linebacker stance. And even like once he made the transition to edge this year, and we were still in the McDermott scheme, Jim will tell you, we had a podcast with me and Newt, and I had Moore as a linebacker or as an edge more, and Barham still as a linebacker, and Newt had him flipped. For me, I thought Barham could be a player in that Michael Hoyt-esque role where he's a stack backer, flying downhill, plugging gaps, and absolutely being a hammer in the middle of your defense. And then on pass rush downs, be more of an edge player to rush the passer. Because I do think he still has good explosiveness, athleticism, but where he struggles is his sideline to sideline range. So I think in this scheme, he fits even more cleanly than that. That was kind of more of a creative defensive chess piece type role that is kind of gambling with where you're trying to work him in multiple different spots. Here, I think he's a player that fits cleanly into that outside linebacker role where he's able to play from depth. He can come down and attack and fill gaps that way. And then when you're ready to or if he's on the strength side or you want him to rush the passer, he's rolling up and going. Like him and Hoyt, I think Barham's going to be a player that I'm going to be hammering the table for, even as high. Like I don't have the grade here, but to ensure we get him, if they took him in the second round, I'd be even happy with that. He's a player that he's my guy up and down this class.
Yeah, so I'll have to snipe him from you in the drafted team tomorrow. You and I are going to be.
I'm glad I just gave you that ammo, Jim.
Yeah,
I love Jayshon Barham.
He's
the
king of that. It almost drives me insane with drafted teams. You'll know exactly who I'm taking all the time.
Well, you see, I do draft a team with everybody, right? Because I'll do it with Randall, I'll do it with Owen, so I know who everybody likes.
Mm-hmm.
But Owen, I don't see Barham on your edge list. And that was actually one of the reasons. So for everybody watching the podcast, I see it now. Okay, I missed it.
No, I just added it. I just added it.
He's there. I didn't look high enough. I just posted Owen's edge board to Twitter. So for everybody watching the podcast, if you want to see the board that I think all three of us on the podcast were looking at Owen's grading sheet so that we have a frame of reference as to who, like, okay, I'm higher on or somebody's higher on. I just posted the top 14 to Twitter. So you can go ahead and check that at the draft off the Draft Professor feed. But yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure we got Barham in because I thought from everything I heard on the scouting report when you and Newt covered him, Owen, I thought that's just a player you want in your team, and you're going to find a place to get him on the field.
Yeah. That was the original one, and the reason why you didn't see him initially, Jim, is because he was in the linebacker tab, and I hadn't copied him over to edge. I kind of forgot about it because I had already had him done for that spot, so I remember doing him, just not for that side. But for me, that was the kind of the consensus before was Barham is a player that limited, and you're not going to be able to. He's not going to be like an All Pro or Pro Bowl type guy, especially in a lot of schemes, unless you are super creative or run the scheme the Bills run, where before it was find a way to get him on the field, find a position for him, coach him up, let him do what he does, which is punch offensive linemen in the mouth and, live in other teams' backfields, but maybe be a bit more of an agent of chaos, not really well-rounded when it comes to dropping coverage or doing some other things like consistently as an edge. But now you have a position where it's specifically the role is you're either going to be filling up the line of scrimmage, or if you're not filling the line of scrimmage as a linebacker, you're rushing the passer. Like it just plays cleanly into what you want him to do. To where the point is, after you said that, I shoved him into the spot between Mason Thomas, who again was a guy we were discussing as maybe like at 26, which I don't think I would take Barham in the first, no matter how much I love him. There's just so many question marks there. I think Thomas and Height are guys that have the athletic and pass rush upside to be elite in that category, whereas Barham isn't. But Barham is the most well-rounded and best suited player for that role in our defense of all the guys we've talked about. He's the cleanest fit. There's no question for me where he would fit and how. There's no question to me what he can do this, but he can't do that. He can do everything you're going to ask him to do. It's just going to be to what level of height can he get to doing that.
Yep, and Randall's got a write up to finish.
Yeah, I will know by tomorrow by noon, or maybe even tonight.
So
love Jayshon Barham.
Randall, did you look at Barham over the summer?
I did. Yeah, I didn't have my notes for him. I had him as a linebacker, big guy linebacker, big time hitter, plays at the line of scrimmage well. Speed can work, needs play recognition and a little bit more cover skills, good at read and react and defending the run. Love how he tackles. And then that's where I got to him.
Yep. So, and just a little bit more background on Barham. So Barham, I believe he started at Maryland. When he went to Maryland, he was an edge. He transferred to Michigan and they moved him to linebacker. Then he played a couple seasons at Michigan at linebacker, and then halfway through this season, they moved him back to edge. So this is a player who has and keep in mind, Michigan was playing at a very high level, right? So 2 years ago, Michigan beat Ohio State, and 3 years ago, Michigan won a national title. I'm questioning whether Barham was on the national title team or not, but this is somebody that's played at a very high level for one of the better defenses in college football.
Yeah, it wasn't like when he transitioned to linebacker at Michigan, you constantly hear about guys who go from an edge to maybe a stand-up outside linebacker type player, where kind of what we're talking about projecting him to right now. He went from hand in the ground defensive end to middle linebacker of Michigan defense to back to being a stand-up edge. He's played all three of those spots, and he's done it all at a high level. For me, again, I think the position you have him in with the Bills defense maximizes everything he does and minimizes the stuff that you're kind of concerned about with how flexible he's been, quote unquote, with the positions in the years past. So I think he's a guy that you need a guy to come in and be a starter while if Waite's not ready to go at the beginning of the season. He's a guy that even though I don't have a third to second round grade on him, you bring him in. I think he's an immediate starter for your team. And Trey Moore, I think, is to the same extent if we want to cover him a little bit too. I know we talked a lot about Barham here.
Yeah, go for Trey Moore. Why not?
Yeah, so he's another guy who was an edge for Texas, and then this year they moved him more into an off-ball spot, but they still give him opportunities to blitz from the second level and fly around and be more in space. Randall did say he was pretty decent in his lower zone, especially in the flats and stuff like that. So he has the movement skills to do that, similar to what we talked about with Josephs or Romello Height, where their biggest strength is the fact that they can move laterally. So he's more of that linebacker body type build. Barham's a lot more just a ball of muscle, where Moore is a bit leaner. I don't love his pass rushing. I think he's kind of more of a one or two trick pony. So I like him better as working in that space as an off ball backer. But I do think he's another guy that fits in this defensive system cleanly projection wise, which is what I have him in the plus talent, but I have questions. One, just because I don't love how his pass rush right now. So I don't know how cleanly he's going to be able to come in and start right away. But I do think he's a player that, again, if you're looking for a double dip opportunity, maybe in the early third to add two guys that roster spot or in that position group, that's a Trey Moore spot, definitely.
Okay. Randall, any more players you want to talk about here?
Yeah. I think Malachi Lawrence is somebody that could be looked at. I have him as an early day 3. I think he can work on that wide 9 stance at his frame, 35-inch arms, 80-inch wingspan, 6'4", 263. But he could also potentially work as a 5-tech, but I put him on the outside. He's just got a lot of tools and a really good size. Moves laterally really, really well for tackles for losses on outside runs. Just is an explosive guy, has good pass rush moves, including rip, swipes, spin move. He's got a good bull rush. He's got high potential. So he's somebody that I think you could look at in the draft in the early day 3 for Buffalo. I think he could fit. And another early day 3 guy that shined in Senior Bowl is Nadame Tucker. I think he looks good, and the way he won in the Senior Bowl is very similar how he won into Western Michigan. Just 6'1", 246. He's got over 32-inch arms. He's got really good explosion at the line of scrimmage. His first step is super explosive, and that's really how he tries to win in a wide 9 stance, is he tries to win in that speed real quick to engage the tackle, and once he wins that leverage on the tackle gaining, he'll take a quick dip and get through. He does it on a consistent basis. He did it against their bigger competition, against Michigan State and a little bit of Illinois. In Illinois, they had him line up a little bit as a 3-tech or even a 4-eye, and that was interesting. He held his own, but did not play as well as he does as the outside edge. He hand fights well. His speed to power is slightly above average. Lateral movement's good. My only knock for him is he bites on misdirection in the run game, so he really needs to work on that and play recognition. And then his timing at the line of scrimmage can be suspect sometimes. I watched 5 games on him in Western Michigan, and I caught about 4 offsides that he pulled just stepping over at that time. So that was something I saw consistent. And then last one, the very last one that I have, and Owen will probably yell at me, but this is as like the last pick. If we have the last pick, we still have it. And we need to get another outside linebacker edge. Jack Pyburn is somebody that I believe that, as well as, let's say we don't get Barham, he's somebody that is like a bulldozer for his size at 6'3", 265, and he's somebody that you could manufacture open lanes for him as like a late 7, like developmental guy that's very, very good at defending the run. But if you throw him in a stunt or a twist and an opportunity to shoot up the middle, or he even works well, just kind of like Mike Kamara, he's very good at stunts and opening people up with his body frame and his strength. He's somebody that you could maybe put in a Hoyt role and be able to make him just a chaotic person on the defensive front 7. So that's somebody in late day 3 that I wouldn't mind if they took a flyer at pick 228, which is our last pick.
Randall, have you watched Quintavious Hutchins from Boston College?
I did. I liked Hutchins. He's thin. I would take Quintavious Hutchins relatively round 5, round 6, but I did like him. He's at 229. He's got almost 33-inch arms, which is great. He's got smaller hands, but that's fine. He only had 2 sacks, 25 pressures. His initial burst is really good, and sets up in a 4-point stance. His timing on his pass rush is really good. It seems like he's very methodical in how he approaches the line of scrimmage and how he approaches his offensive lineman or tackle. He wins very well with the small bend and his swipe is really his go-to move. His bend is okay, but his lateral move, which he showed in the Senior Bowl, he does in the regular season as well. That quick kind of basketball left to right, kind of juke you out and go. He does that in the regular season, so it's not like he just saved that for the Senior Bowl to show. I saw that in the regular season, so that's kind of cool. He's a 5th round, late 5th round, 6th round for me. I think he's a little bit project with a smaller frame.
Okay. Because that was one other player. He was in Owen's top 15 that we hadn't talked about.
Oh, nice. Lay it.
Yeah.
What do you like about him?
The one word to describe him, just slithery. Like, I think he's the ability he has, despite being undersized. Like, I don't love him when he's going to be, again, very less scheme versatile, because I don't think he can play towards the line of scrimmage. But if you're going to have a scheme like the Bills do, similar to like, no, I think that I like this other player better than him, but like Olu Oladejo from last year, where it's a player where kind of more of a linebacker, but he's able to kind of do those more lateral, quick change direction moves and find spaces to avoid guys and then get into the backfield. So I think he can really be a guy that can slice in there and make plays like that. But for me, he's not super clean for any one place. I think he's going to need to get drafted and basically redshirt to get better. But I do think he has super high upside with what you talked about with his athleticism and just the skill set he has.
Okay. You guys have time to do a Bills mock before we close out the podcast?
Yes, sir.
Hit it.
See, that's what we're here for. So, hey, anytime we can do a mock draft, right? You just have to find excuses. 7-round Buffalo Bills. Yeah, so when everybody's watching, it always seems to move slower, right?
It's like the pot. It's watching the water boil. It's not going. It's going the same speed. You're just overthinking it.
Okay, so the draft has gone Mendoza, Bain, Reese, Tate, Maui Noah, Tyson, Downs, Styles, Fano, Bailey, Ione, Delane, Simpson, Woods, Falk, McCoy, Lomu, Sadiq, Love, Allen, Lemon, Pregnon, Proctor, Banks, Parker. Buffalo's on the clock.
Banks going 2 picks before is tough.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think?
I'm
I know where Randall's going.
Yeah. So we don't have to do them now. Like, this is a team effort. I know that, if I'm not mistaken, when I saw your board, you're a little bit lower on Caden McDonald. You don't have a first round grade on Caden McDonald, right?
Yeah, correct. Of these guys here, like Lee Hunter is talking to me, especially because the team's lacking kind of a nose tackle player right now. Daquan Jones is unlikely to be back. Even if he is, he's on the other side of his age curve where it's going to be a bit worse. Cassius Howell. I am a big fan of Elijah Surratt at 26. So like this is a good board for I think he is for 26.
Yeah. I love Elijah Surratt. I think it's brave of both of us to say we take Elijah Surratt in the first with the draft community, because I would too. But I am a big Lee Hunter fan as well. I think he's one of top 3 nose tackles in which we need a nose tackle.
Yeah, I think if you told me this was the position, I would be fine with either Surratt or Lee Hunter. Surratt, I especially just love the back shoulder stuff, but there's also receivers that I like that can do kind of similar stuff with Josh that I wouldn't be terribly.
Yeah. So,
do we take Chris Bell here right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
You take Chris Bell right now.
I heard 2 people agree.
Yes, Chris Bell right there.
I'm lower on Chris Bell than Owen, but this is a steal at pick 60.
Yeah, Chris Bell. If you are pounding table for the Bills to trade for DJ Moore, Chris Bell is that same style receiver that, like, especially when Moore was coming out, where he's going to have that right to catch, bigger body, can move.
Yeah.
Not as polished as DJ Moore is right now, obviously, but Chris Bell, if you want to add that talent, that explosive element to your offense, that's going to be a player you can grab in the second. Where that either him or Ted Hurst.
Yeah. I would love to take Chris Bell here. I do. He disappeared. Is it the battery? Let's go Chris Bell because he was ecstatic about it. I do agree. I mean, he did improve over 2025 as well with Chris Bell. He really played through physicality better, and he actually ended up working on his hitches and comebacks, and they look pretty decent.
Okay. So I think we're going to do Jayshon Barham.
Yeah, let's do that for Owen.
Do we look linebacker, safety?
Red Murdoch. I mean, I have a 3rd round grade on Red Murdoch. I love Red Murdoch on that interior, but I do believe how we handle linebacker in free agency is really how we're going to dictate what we do in the linebacker position, because we obviously need to go into free agency and pick up linebackers. So, I mean, we need a true free safety. I think Genesis Smith is somebody that could command. Jim Leonard does run a good amount of single high, which is perfect because Cole Bishop is going to go into his natural habitat as a really, really good box safety. So we do need somebody to be that free safety. So I'll leave it up to Owen, and we'll go.
Owen, we took Chris Bell
Barham.
in round 2.
We did.
So
Genesis Smith, Red Murdoch, or Barham.
So I have a question. Dean Kindig had Jake Golday on his edge list when he was tweeting it out. We were promoting the podcast, right? So if Buffalo drafted Golday, how do you think they would use him? And we lost Owen again.
I would put Golday as the Sam because he does have some pass rush juice to it. So in that 3-4 Sam role, he'd be able to use his pass rush juice as well as still be able to two-time. There you go. And he's a huge human being. So he would be able to use that pass rush juice in the Sam. You could put him at the will as well, and he would still be able to use his pass rush juice. So either there you'd fit. I wouldn't put him at the Mike, and I would not put him at edge.
Okay. So we are definitely going to dedicate Jason Barham to Owen. Like he was saying, we got to come out of the draft with Barham and Owen.
Take him here for sure. Yeah.
We're taking Owen's guy, and then we'll see. I do agree, though. We need to get a safety.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the safeties looking like?
It's a Bishop Fitzgerald in round 4. Jacoby Thomas.
If I'm looking at that in the safeties, who was go back to the first page. We took Barham for you.
Do we have audio yet, Owen? No.
We go down a little bit. There was somebody that I saw that now. Miles Scott, Illinois, is somebody that is a more free safety than a strong safety, and I think he could handle the single high. I think that's somebody that could be interesting. Like
what's your
Wampaz
grade
is strong.
on Scott?
Scott is my safety 10, I believe.
Okay. Okay. I see it now because I don't know that I've heard of him being that high when we covered safeties. So we can Miles Scott at what pick 126?
Well, yeah, I mean the safeties went all the safeties went quick. What else are we looking
Husky
for?
went the pick before us.
Yeah, brutal.
What did I miss?
We went Barham. We're short of safety, but the safeties right now are not looking outstanding, in my personal opinion.
Okay.
It does look like Red Murdoch is still available.
I would personally think that would go safety in free agency where we can invest.
I think so
in a
too.
guy like PJ Locke, especially the guy who's currently playing for the Broncos, was more of a reserve player for him. Worked with Leonard because he was their DB's coach in Denver. I think there will be players that he will like that already know his system and his scheme and can come in and be kind of that stabilizing presence for Cole Bishop. You say so Barham.
I do agree. My issue is that PJ Locke never earned a starting role there, and he looked better potentially coming off the bench. So I'm nervous about giving one of his guys that starting role and then not performing there, especially in a single high role. So I am nervous a little bit about that, but I do really believe that PJ Locke does come to Buffalo. It's just whether or not I think we need to add another safety for competing to see who gets that starting job.
Oh, I definitely agree. I think from what we got so far, so Barham's going to be our outside linebacker, our archetype. Bell is that speed, extra athleticism, and talent you need at the wide receiver position, and Lee Hunter is our nose tackle. So I do think we can still go with a stacked middle backer because right now you have maybe Joey Andreessen can take the next step to be a middle linebacker, but to be honest with you, I don't really see him being that guy that can have the talent to be a consistent starter.
Yeah,
Bernard potentially, or is going to have to be. But I don't think Shaq Thompson or Matt Milano are going to be back and be able to play in that. Of the list we have in front of me, like I always am going to be down to take Red Murdoch just because not only is he my boy,
I'm with
he
you.
goes to Buffalo, but
I'm
like,
still with you though.
if he was a dude from North Dakota State University, the style of football he plays and the way he plays the position and the progress he's taken so in this past season with his coverage, I think he's perfect to fit into the middle linebacker type we need, where downhill punch a line in the face. If you don't get like a CJ Allen or Josiah Trotter, and we're outside of that range at this point by now, getting Murdoch at this point, it would be amazing because I think he'd be your starting inside backer next to Bernard next season.
Agreed.
Okay. Red Murdoch, welcome to Buffalo.
Okay, I can't wait to get done with these safeties and have some deep cuts for you guys when we get to this point.
My thought right now is that this is one of three positions. It's either safety, corner, or wide receiver. And it's because Bell's probably not ready week 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bell is basically the Willis McGahee, right? We're drafting him, but he's not going to play his rookie year.
Is he going to be out the whole season?
I mean, it's a torn ACL, so not necessarily the whole season, but even if he comes back, he's not going to be the best version of himself. Right.
Yeah. I think he could push to be back towards the beginning of the season because ACL tears at this point at like 10 months to a year-long recovery.
Right.
And that would put him at like early October to like, probably be closer towards the middle of the season with like Thanksgiving around there. I'd probably guess is when he'd come in. So I definitely do think, double dipping receiver would probably help.
But Randall has a guy that's sitting here in round 5. Randall, you want to tell everybody about Malik Benson?
Yeah, Malik Benson to me is a unidentified Jameson Williams. He's got a limited route tree, kind of like Jameson Williams, but he's 6'1", 195. He was a track star in high school. Ran a 10.44 100-meter dash in high school. Still holds that speed. He's going to test out really well, and at 6'1", 195, he can play through physicality instead of having the 4.29, 5'9", 170 guy. You have a 6'1", 195 that may be able to run a low 4.3s, and he could separate. He separates after the catch. He can separate on go routes. He has a really good post route. Can make comebacks and things along those lines. Can manufacture touches for catch and run. So he's somebody that is kind of my day 3 flyer guy for Buffalo because you can win on that speed and he's a vertical stretcher. But he's obviously somebody that we don't have to take as well. Lewis Bond is a really good route runner. Deion Burks, I'm a little bit lower on. He shined in the playoffs, but I do like his game. He's a little smaller framed. J. Michael Sturdivant is later. I think we're at pick 166, but I mean, J. Michael Sturdivant is kind of a dog.
I like Sturdivant and I like Burks, but I do think Burks is more of a slot type player, and we don't really need any more of those guys on our team. I haven't watched Benson or Bond, so I mean, the way you described them, I'm going off. We've already taken a bunch of my dudes in this class at this point in this draft. So if you want to go Benson, I do think that'd be a good one. I do think if we take Benson, I'm not super familiar with the super late day safeties, so we might be taking just a shot on a guy I don't have any information on. Or if we go with that, we have to probably grab an offensive lineman, an interior player, and probably another edge player to go with Barham.
Yeah, I click Benson. So okay, so interior offensive line, safety, and possibly corner.
Yeah.
So why do you have corner in the position he needs right now, Jim? Just curious.
So
Dorian Strong.
So between Dorian Strong possibly not being available, but even if Strong was available, Tre'Davious White was logging a lot of snaps. He is a free agent. So is Strong replacing White if he's on the roster? Right? Like, I believe we're down a corner. Like, we were even down a corner as soon as Ingram.
The transaction, right? Ingram went.
Yeah, because that was a safety corner flip there. So I think we're down a corner. We're going to have to add a corner either as a UDFA or in the draft.
Yeah.
I agree. Do you think Trey White comes back?
I don't know how well he fits in the scheme because they're going to run a lot of man. Right. He's a great zone corner. I did like how he played this past season. It was just more so, what's his fit with this scheme and how well can he play?
No, I agree.
Man, I was pounding the table for interior offensive line, but a lot of these guys are I'm not like besides Braun and Carmona maybe, but like I'm not a big fan of. I'm not like over the moon for either of
Carmona.
those
Yeah,
guys.
Carmona has improved. He lost a little bit of weight to help with his cement feet, and that's why he kind of kicked into guard. But he does have the versatility. He played tackle throughout all of college until his final year played guard. So the versatility is cool in a pick 2, whatever this pick is.
Yeah,
208.
we're at round 7 here. Yeah.
Right. So the ability of Carmona's versatility is nice, and obviously he'd be developmental guard. Taking it, he's only played 1 year guard in college.
Yeah.
But
what are the tackles available right now, Jim? Just because I'm in the same vein of what you're talking about. Oh my God, Drew Shelton! What the? Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope. So where do you have Shelton graded?
I have a 3rd round grade on Shelton.
You're the highest, I believe, that I have heard on Drew Shelton.
I know me and actually,
Yeah, but
I
you
lied.
and Jerry. Okay, I should say you and Jerry.
Yeah, I lied. Drew Shelton is tackle 6 for me.
Randall, where's Drew Shelton for you?
I'm still evaluating all my tackles, so I have not built my tackle board yet.
Okay. Well, hey, Owen, we'll take your guy.
Yeah,
Go
that's
for it.
insane.
Yeah.
I have a 2nd round grade on Drew Shelton.
Well, it was
You
interesting
can play him
because
wherever.
so I readjusted where Shelton was on the board because he hadn't been taken in any of the Friday mocks. So in none of the Friday mocks did he ever go. So like he was pretty high. I knocked him down a little bit, but that means that right now, if he's there, it just means nobody's picking him.
Yeah,
Right. Because just with the simulator algorithm, if players get picked, they're going to move up.
Yeah, he's a guy that's like he's a great athlete, like phenomenal athlete, and the fact like he has some power issues, and he's just barely north of 300, so like that's probably where that shows up. But there's a lot of stuff to love about his game.
Yep. And then Randall, do you want to sell Owen on Miles Scott from Illinois, who we were going to be taking in like round 4, and he's still here in round 7?
Yeah, I mean he was wide receiver, converted safety. 2 years he played 2 years wide receiver at Illinois, then moved on over. He's a free safety, which we certainly need because with that single high he's going to be playing. He's got a really good motor, sideline to sideline. He's got fluid hips to flip when he's in the center to flip to each half. Just needs to work on some tackling, but that's because he started as a wide receiver turned safety. But he's got good pre-snap processing and just works really well on in the deep field by himself.
Yeah, I'd watched Miles Scott because we covered Illinois in the lead up to the season, and I watched him. I thought the same thing. Like great player when it came to like free safety. I had him like round 4 on 5 grade. I have to update that still, but for me, like everything you were just talking about, like I think the tackling and the run defense was definitely the big question mark there. But if you're going to have a defense where you're going to have a lot of single high and Cole Bishop's going to be buzzing down and being that extra hat in the run D, and you're just having Scott back there as your break glass, make a tackle to save a touchdown type player, I'm not opposed to that. If they walked out of that draft with that class, I would be giving Brandon Beane all the flowers.
Same. That was actually a very good draft. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
Oh, I enjoyed listening to you guys talk. In addition to that, I believe next week we are doing safeties.
Yes, we are.
Awesome.
So next week we'll be discussing the Buffalo Bills safety room, the safeties in the draft class, and this is a pretty good safety class.
Bingo.
And I want to hear all about Jalen Husky. He is not getting enough attention.
He's been
I just got doing my final write up on him. He's a stud.
Yeah,
So you said you just finished?
Yeah, with Jalen Husky. Yeah.
How high did you, if you don't mind me asking, how high did you grade him?
He is a 3rd round grade. Right now he's safety 5.
Okay. So safety 5 and as a 3rd round grade. Either you have a lot of safeties with 3rd round grades, or I'm really curious where you've got like Kilgore and a few others that are probably under him. So
yeah, so like Kilgore, Wheatley, a lot of these guys I don't have in my rankings yet. So he's like 5 of the 12 I've watched so far.
Oh, got it. Okay. Cool. why don't we pause for podcaster identification? Randall, I appreciate you getting the Dude Champions Arsenal.
I didn't even tell them to come on. They just saw my retweet, so I appreciate them coming on for sure.
Absolutely. But
yeah, at Randall Slifer, you can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I try and respond to everybody there. I also do other than Draft Professors, which we're getting into heavy draft cycle, which is so exciting now. Tuesdays, I get to hang out with Owen and Jerry Ostrowski, and we get to talk ball with Buffalo and the draft. Now, Mondays with Dude Champions, I do the Buffalo Combat Zone with the two Alexes, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. And then starting next Wednesdays at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, I'll be doing the NFL Draft Central with Team MBS Media with Bill Carroll, Greg Rector, and Jeff Barnes will be stopping in, I believe, later in there. But that will be starting next week. We get to interview a lot of like mid or late day 3 guys that are trying to get their name out and talk to them, which is really exciting and one of my favorite things to do.
Awesome. Owen.
Yeah, so you can find me here on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights, kind of like Randall was talking about with Randall, Jim, and Jerry Ostrowski. Wednesdays, I'm on typically with Newt. Tomorrow we're doing draft team, I believe, and I'm definitely not getting Jay Sean Barham, so we'll just take that. And I'm just going to sleep on that and accept it at this point. But I'm keeping everyone else close to my vest. I'm not letting Jim snipe any more of my guys. But you find me here Tuesday, Wednesdays. I have Twitter at Weekly Huddle. I also have YouTube at Weekly Huddle. Going to be posting some more stuff over there. I respond to everybody on Twitter, have takes, about everything, whether it's going to be football. I'm also been, since the Sabres are good now, I'm definitely getting more into the hockey stuff and having that bleed over a bit. So got a ton of stuff going on there. So check me out on any of those social medias.
Yeah. So first, I want to say, give Randall and Owen a follow, please, and thank you. We can't make this content without Randall and Owen contributing to Draft Professor, and I love you guys. Thank you so much for doing this. Want to have a couple of reminders and or announcements. So every Friday, Draft Professor does a 32-person mock. So if you want a mock draft for your team, so if you want a mock draft for Buffalo, you can do it. Just go to the Draft Professor page. The pinned post at NFL Draft Fanatic is the sign up for that 32-person mock. We do 3 rounds. There's 32 people drafting for 32 teams. All you have to do is message your pick into the chat, and then there's going to be a couple people on the podcast that will be commenting on the picks. This week, it's Drew Collins and Chris Connor that will be on the podcast telling you what their grades are on the players that you drafted. In addition to that, we have Epic Mock 26. So those tweets started going out today. So Epic Mock is 7 rounds, 32 people picking for 32 teams. Every single team will have a podcast. The Bills podcast will be on Jerry Ostrowski's feed for, what was it? Now I have to remember the name of his network. Already escaped me.
Locked in?
No, it's he's part of 2. It's not the Locked On, it's the other one.
Oh.
So Jerry will be hosting it. You will see Owen and Randall on the podcast with Jerry discussing all of the trades that are coming in, everything. And I know that some of the people that do Champions participated in that last year. So now that's going to be over on Jerry's feed this year.
It's Overreaction Buffalo, isn't it?
Overreaction Buffalo. Thank you. And then actually, Dude Champions is actually going to have the Day 3 War Room. So Randall will have the Day 3 War Room on the Dude Champions feed.
Yeah, buddy.
So we are in mock draft season. Just pay attention, everybody. The draft is only like 11 weeks away. It's really not that far away. So you blink, it's going to be here. But for Randall, for Owen, for myself, for the 110 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy your night, and we'll see you on a podcast again tomorrow.